The correct position is that the hands are placed on the chest. In the Hanafi school, they say women do this. That's for the women's salah. But the men, they place it below the navel. This is not correct. In the Maliki school, they typically pray with their hands hanging by their sides. But you cannot find any hadith to support it. In the Hanbali school, you can find different rulings like the others, which are based actually on weak hadiths. Every last one of the schools, they said, you will find some practices like that. For example, in the Hanbali school, you find the narration that when you go down into sujood, you place your knees before your hands. This is in the Hanbali school. Also found in the Hanafi. But this is based on a weak hadith. The authentic hadith is, as the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا سَجَدَ أَحَدُكُمْ, if any one of you makes sujood, فَلَا يَبْرُكْ كَمَا يَبْرُكُ الْبَعِيرُ, do not prostrate as the camel prostrates. فَلْيَدَعْ يَدَيْهِ قَبْلَ رُكْبَتَيْهِ, let him put his hands before his knees. That is the correct position. That is the authentic hadith. So I'm just saying that to say that the reason why we find certain differences, and this is not the only reason why there are differences in the schools, we'll look at some of the other differences later, but at least from a hadith point of view, it is possible to correct up some of the differences by identifying the authentic hadiths and leaving these aside. And in fact, all of the great scholars of these schools of Islamic law, they all used to say, Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i and the others all used to say, إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيث فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي, if you find the authentic hadith, then that is really my madhab. That was their opinion. They were not about, I'm going to hold on to this thing, do or die, I don't care. No. Because they were of the opinion, unanimously, that if a hadith, an authentic hadith comes to somebody, for somebody to not follow that hadith and go according to the opinion of somebody else, they said this is not permissible in the religion. Not permissible. And there was a classical case of Abdullah ibn Umar, who when he was teaching, he taught people about making Hajj Tamattu'. That's the Hajj in which you combine Umrah along with the Hajj. And whilst he was teaching that, some of his students said, but your father and Abu Bakr said that we shouldn't do Hajj Tamattu', that we should do Hajj Qiran or Hajj Ifrad, that we shouldn't do Hajj Tamattu'. Ibn Omar got mad and he said, I tell you what Rasulullah ﷺ said, and you're telling me what my father and Abu Bakr said? They said, the religion is about to fall on you. And this is what they stressed. What Allah, what Messenger said, this has to be giving precedence over everything else. Opinions can be right or they can be wrong, for a variety of different reasons. The foundation is the authentic narrations. Now, when we look at the books of hadith, there are 6 which are most commonly spoken about. The famous 6, or the sound 6, they are Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abi Dawood, Sunan At-Tirmidhi, Sunan Ibn Majah, and Sunan what was the fourth one? An-Nasai, Sunan An-Nasai. Okay, these are the famous 6. Now, actually the number of hadith books are considerably more than the 6. But these are most commonly known by people. Now the hadiths found in Bukhari and Muslim, these are virtually 100% reliable. That's why they're called Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. But the hadiths found in the Sunan, they vary. Not all of them are authentic. Tirmidhi, Sunan al-Tirmidhi is the most authentic, or has the highest percentage of authentic hadiths of the 4. Sunan al-Tirmidhi and Sunan Abi Dawood. Then Sunan al-Nasai, then Sunan Ibn Majah. In fact, some scholars prefer to put Sunan al-Darimi in place of Sunan Ibn Majah. You know? So those hadiths which are found in the other 4 Sunan and other books similar, they have to be classified before you can use them with surety. The scholar Sheikh Nasiruddin al-Albani rahimahullah, he did a massive work and analyzing these Sunan, these 4 Sunan, going through hadith by hadith and identifying the authentic and the inauthentic. So he has a version of the Sunan which are called Sahih Sunan Abi Dawood, for example. The authentic narrations of Sunan Abi Dawood and Da'if Sunan Abi Dawood. And he separated them into 2 books. And the weak narrations of Abi Dawood. And he did the same for Ibn Majah, so on, so on, so on. There is a statement made in the book here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4th from the bottom on page 79. Please correct it. There is a mistype. It states there, in the 4th line from the bottom, not the footnotes, 4th line from the bottom, page 79. Page 79. 4th line from the bottom. It starts, nearly all inaccurate. Cross out in. It should be nearly all accurate narrations. Which can, it says cannot, cross out the not. Which can be used as evidence. Therefore that sentence should read, from, if you go to the beginning of the sentence, that is, one may freely quote hadiths from both Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim as evidence because they are very nearly all accurate narrations which can be used as evidence. The earliest book of hadiths to reach us is the compilation of Imam Malik, known as Al-Muwatta. This has been translated into English. Al-Muwatta. Now Imam Malik, the Imam of Medina, his grandfather was a Sahabi. His grandfather was a Sahabi. His compilation, as I said, Al-Muwatta, this is the oldest compilation from the period of the Tabi'in to reach us. And the largest compilation of hadiths is that of Imam Ahmed, known as the Musnad of Imam Ahmed, or Musnad Ahmed. That has over 40,000 hadiths. Imam Ahmed collected them all, as many as he could. Not focusing on whether Sahih, Da'if, all this kind. He just focused on trying to collect them all. Imam Malik, he did try to ensure that the hadiths that he collected were authentic. So the number of weak hadiths in Muwatta are few. But his compilation, when you read it, you will see that it contains many statements of the Sahaba. For example, it's not just a hadith collection. It was his teaching notes, you could say. It contains information he got from through the Sahaba as well as hadiths. And in that Muwatta, you will see him say there that the position of the hands in Salah is right hand over left hand. Though most of Malikis, they pray with their hands by their side. You will hear the term, as I said, hadith sahih, hadith da'if. You can't use the da'if hadith. You'll also hear this term hadith mawdu' or fabricated hadith. A fabricated hadith is one which either it has no chain of narration at all, like the hadith, seek knowledge even unto China. Utlubul ilmu law fi as-sin. This is fabricated. It has no chain of narration at all. Or the hadith, my companions are like stars. Any one of them you follow, you'll be rightly guided. Ashabi ken nujum, bi'ayhim iqtadaytum ihtadaytum. This is not authentic at all. Or it may be classified as fabricated because one of the narrators in the chain was a known liar. He was known to lie. He was caught. People caught him lying. And there's a well-known case of Ibn al-Mubarak, one of the hadith scholars, where on one occasion he went into the masjid in Damascus, and there were people there, storytellers, who used to like to narrate stories. People would gather around them and they would narrate stories. And what they did was they would add chains of narrations to their stories, because the idea of chains of narration was popular, right? So he began to tell this story, right? And he began by saying, Ibn al-Mubarak narrated to me from so and so, so and so and so. So Ibn al-Mubarak came, sat down, listening. Right? So when he finished saying that and he started to tell his story, Ibn al-Mubarak lifted his hand up and started to pluck hairs from under his armpit. The guy stopped his narration and said, "What are you doing? I am narrating a hadith from Rasulullah and here you are plucking hairs from your armpit." Ibn al-Mubarak said to him, "What I am doing is from the Sunnah." Prophet Muhammad said, "You should pluck the hairs from your armpit." What you are doing is lying, because I never narrated any hadith to you. So, such a person, for example, on that kind of occasion, his name, people would make a note of it. This guy was a known liar. So any hadith he narrated, even if other people narrated it authentic, but he said it, liar. That hadith from him would be considered fabricated, not accepted. Once that label went on you, finish. No matter what you narrated, nobody would accept from you again. The use of hadith da'if. Some people have suggested that it is possible to use hadith da'if in areas of what they call fada'il al-a'mal. That is, fada'il al-a'mal, how do they translate that now? Virtuous deeds, yeah, thank you. Virtuous deeds, meaning not introducing something which isn't already there, but a hadith which talks about reward for a particular thing which is already there. So like, for example, the hadith about Salatul Hajjah, right? This hadith is da'if. It's found in Fazail al-Amal, which gives you a dua to make. You make 2 rak'ah and you make this dua. They call it Salatul Hajjah. It's in Fazail al-Amal. This hadith is da'if. It introduces something which has no foundation. So you cannot say, I can do this because it's from Fazail al-Amal. No, it's not. Because it is introducing something which has no foundation. Right? So that is not acceptable. Whereas a hadith which, though it may be weak, it is talking about something which the Prophet ﷺ already said to do. But it just says, if you do it, you get such and such a reward. So if you did it and there was no such reward, the foundation of what you are doing was already established in the Sunnah. So, no harm. This is what some scholars said. Although the majority of hadith scholars, they rejected this. They said, no, hadith is da'if, don't use it. And it should be noted that those scholars who said, yes, we can use it in these particular circumstances, they only allowed its usage if the reason for the weakness of the hadith was because the memory of the narrator was weak. Not because he was labeled a liar, no. If it was he's labeled a liar, they will not use it at all. So it is only where it was due to some weakness in that narrator's memory. Which means that the likelihood was still there that it could have been authentic. If someone follows some aspects of the sunnah, he grows his beard, wears his pants above his ankles, yet does not practice important sunnahs, he disobeys and yells at his parents and has bad akhlaq altogether, is he still considered as someone who is following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? And if he continuously claims that he follows the sunnah, is he a liar? Sounds like mom trying to get at son. Anyway, of course, if he is doing these things, he's growing his beard and wearing his pants above his ankles, in obedience to Rasulullah ﷺ, then he is following sunnah and is rewarded for that. But if he is lying, if he yells, he disobeys his parents, he has bad akhlaq, then he is not following the sunnah in this respect. And he's earning for himself the displeasure of Allah, some sins against himself. So because one is doing one thing, and according to the sunnah, but another thing not according to the sunnah, this doesn't negate what he is doing, right? So he can still say, yeah, I'm trying to follow the sunnah. It's true, it's trying, but in this regard, he's not. And the Prophet ﷺ had said, al-bir husnul khuluq, righteousness, true righteousness is good moral character. That is the essence. True righteousness is good moral character. So obedience to the sunnah, to the instructions of the Prophet ﷺ, should be comprehensive. It shouldn't be in the part that we like and not in the part that we don't like. We want to yell at our parents, so though Allah tells us that we should be kind to them, lower our voice, be gentle and all these other things, but we don't want to listen to that instruction, so we leave that part of the deen and we focus on another part of the deen. Of course, it's all important anyway, but we should not leave one part and do another part, pick and choose of the religion as we like. Allah tells us in the Quran, "Udkhulu fi silmi kaffa." Enter into the religion of Islam in its totality. أَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Do you believe in a part of the book and you disbelieve in another part? No. This is not the way of the true believers. Isn't it time for reputed scholars of all the fiqh schools to come together and remove the practices based on da'if hadith? Well, some scholars have tried to do that. Fiqh al-Sunnah, for example, by Sayyid Sabiq, he tried to bring all the evidences together and put aside the weak ones, identify them, etc. And scholars have done that. You've had meetings in Mecca and elsewhere where scholars have come together to try to bring the authentic information to bear on contemporary issues, etc. In the classification of hadith, is there a classification called Hasan? Yeah, I didn't go into it because it is something we're going on another level. Hasan, really, you can stick it under Sahih, because the early scholars only made two categories, Sahih and Da'if. Later scholars added a subcategory of Sahih, which they called Hasan. What should we do if we are left-handed? Clean yourself when you make wudu with your left hand. You have an advantage over everybody else. Right? You know, people think, oh, look at this, it's a right-handed thing. Well, no, not everything. Because according to Sunnah, we should clean ourselves with our left hand. Everybody else is struggling with it. You who are left-handed, you got an easy thing. MashaAllah. But the other things that the Prophet ﷺ said, giving and taking with the right hand, eating with the right hand, we do. Beyond that, if you want to write with your left, no problem. You want to throw a ball with your left, no problem. Islam doesn't insist that you have to do all these other things with your right. No. If you're left-handed, those other things which the Prophet ﷺ did not specify, then you can do it with your left. Not a problem. Does the 40 hadiths of Nawawi collection contain some weak hadiths? Yes, there are a few. There are a few. One of them which I recall is the one about none of you has truly believed until his desires become submitted to what I brought. This one is daif. Okay. But the sharh or commentary done by Jamal Zarbozo, he's gone through and he has identified the weak ones in there. That is the best compilation of and commentary on the 40 hadith. It is a compilation that any one of you who wants to read hadith, you should get this compilation. And I recommend it for all of you. If you're serious to increase your Islamic knowledge, then get this set it's a 3-volume set by Jamal Zarbozo. Commentary on the 40 hadith of Nawawi. Nawawi, Nawawi. Nawawi. What do you think of the teachings of Imam Ghazali? Did he use a lot of weak hadiths? Yes, he did. And that's why his book, Ihya Ulumuddin, one has to be careful of. He has built a lot of rulings on very weak hadiths. Some of them are fabricated hadiths. He has practices in there which are from Sufi practices which really are unacceptable in Islam altogether. Right? In Tashahud, I notice people making this up and down movement with their index finger. Is this really chasing the shaitan away? Well, Prophet ﷺ did it. Whenever he sat for Tashahud, he set his hand in this form and he moved his index finger, right? Not all over the place, he pointed the finger towards the Kaaba. So the movement, if you're going all the way over here, you're no longer pointing towards Kaaba. If you're going all the way up in the air, you're no longer down to the ground. You're not. So in between here, that way you point, you move, and you're still on the Kaaba. And he said that it is stronger against Satan than iron. And when he did this, he used to look at his finger. So in the Salah, there are different places that you look when you're standing, when you're Yarhamukallah. When you are in ruku', when you're in sujood, when you're sitting, you look at your hand, your right hand, at the finger. And let me just mention that you don't raise it at the time of saying Ashhadu Allah. Okay, there's a common practice that when people are doing, at the time of saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, it comes out, and Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, like this. There's this hadith, but it is weak on it. It's not authentic. So you start from the time you sit for tashahud, you point and you move all the way till you make tasleens. Well, it depends on that's your Shafi'i book. The Shafi'i book that the Muslims in Indonesia follow, they don't do that. They just point right from the very beginning, straight away. Someone I know is Shia, and he does many other things such as removing pure leather during salah or putting his hands up to his ears in sujood. He also puts a clay block where his head touches the ground because Prophet ﷺ touched dirt with his head in sujood. Is this appropriate? If not, what can I support it with? Well, we know that the Prophet ﷺ prayed on a prayer mat. He had a mat that he used to put on the ground and he prayed on it. So we cannot say he always touched his head on the dirt. And that's not why they do it. They do it because that earth, which they call turbat, this little clump of earth, this is taken from Karbala, where Imam Hussein was martyred. He was killed there. And they believe that because his blood was spilt there, that land becomes holy land. Land whose blessings is greater than the blessings of Mecca by some 50,000 times. So yes, they gather up the earth from there and they make little tablets, little circular or square tablets, and they put it in the oven and they fire it up so it's solid, and they make their sujood on it. And it is not from the Sunnah. A few shuyukh such as Hafidh ibn Hajar in the past and Sheikh Muqbil among recent scholars have stated that hadith about moving the finger in tashahhud is shadh, related by less trustworthy people than the hadith about not moving it. What is your opinion? Well, as far as I know, that is the stronger opinion. But the hadith also of just pointing without moving at all, that this has strength to it too. So one may just point continually or point and move. Could you please repeat the ruling on Salatul Hajjah? Salatul Hajjah is bid'ah, as it is found in Fazaili Amal. But if one has a need and makes 2 rak'ah and turns to Allah in their own personal dua, that's fine. But the dua which is taught in that narration in Fazaili Amal, it is not authentic. So we don't have a category of what may be called Salatul Hajjah. We have Khutbatul Hajjah, which is the one, Inna alhamdulillah, nahmadu wa nasta'inu wa nastaghfiruh. This is called Khutbatul Hajjah. Prophet ﷺ called it that. What do you think about the categorization of hadith by Nasiruddin Albani? I already spoke about that. What is your position on a book by Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi called Bahishti Zawar? Should be burned. It contains many rulings and statements which have no support at all in hadith, bid'ah. Lots of stuff. I know it's the most popular book in the Indian subcontinent, but it is an unreliable book. Right? Maybe about 60 or 70% of it is not useful at all. So I would advise you get rid of it and get a book which like Riyadh al-Salihin. This is a reliable book by Imam Nawawi, where he has gathered together good authentic hadiths covering the same kind of range of topics that you may find in Bahishti Zawar, the heavenly ornaments. If one wanted to get a second wife without having made any contract to keep only one to his first wife, but his wife is threatening to leave him if he gets a second, comment. Well, that's your problem, brother. One has to weigh the situation. If marrying that second wife is critical, more critical than maintaining your first wife, then you marry the second wife. And if the first wife comes to her senses, then you have 2 wives. But if the first wife, you've got kids or whatever, and marrying the second wife is going to cause her to go and you have a problem where family splits up and you don't have your children, then it's something one needs to consider, that perhaps for the sake of the children, it's better to hang in there. But the sister, of course, does need to be advised if you as a brother are truly in a position to take a second wife. Because maybe she is leaving because, you don't really have the means, and you're getting a second wife who you're expecting to go out and work, or she's going to collect welfare, or something like this. I mean, it's not in a proper situation where you are actually the man, the head of the family, providing for your family. So you are capable of providing for a second family, so you're taking a second family who you will provide for without detracting from your provision for your first family. Then that's a legitimate circumstance. But sometimes our brothers are a little bit anxious to get number two, and they can't hardly take care of number one. So in such cases, I would not advise them to take second wives. The hadith of wiping the face after dua is da'if. Meaning you make dua when you finish going like this, it's da'if, not authentic. In describing this salah, Prophet ﷺ said, pray as you see me pray. There are narrations where it is stated that whenever you sit for the sitting, the tashahud, in which there is taslim, the end of the prayer, that he used to sit, or he suggested that you sit in the form known as tawarruk, where you put your left foot under the shin of your right foot, and you sit on your left hip. Okay? This is a practice which maybe a lot of people neglect it, and they should be aware of it and try to practice it. My cousin does not like it whenever anyone tells him about Islam, and he gets angry. His wife is very open-minded though. However, whenever I try to tell her about Islam, my cousin also gets very angry at me and tells me to stay away from her altogether. We are told in the Quran and the Sunnah to protect our families from the fire. So how can I do this in my situation? Well, I think that you should continue to try to inform your cousin's wife about Islam, as long as she is willing to listen. Try to pass on as much information as you can. Try to avoid the displeasure of your brother, of course, at the same time. But his displeasure should not deter you from conveying the information.